Alright. How fast can you drive your Astro van? Really, the question should be, how fast can you drive your van, your Astro van, safely? That's what it boils down to, right? So, every vehicle I've ever owned, I've pinned it. I've always been a little nuts, but I think that goes back to when I was 9 years old and I was playing with a Ouija board and it told me I would live for another 60 years. There's so many things that happened to me, I should have been dead already, but I'm still here, so I guess I keep pushing it, testing it out. That's just for my brother, because I know he's like, Ouija board! Anyhow, that's for you, Carl. I hope you're chuckling. So, the Astro van, here's the deal. I got a 04 all-wheel drive Astro van. You know this because you've seen my videos already. And if you don't, if you haven't, check them out so you'll know where we're at right now. But on the forums, which are usually pretty good, there's a bunch of Astro van specific forums on Facebook. Most of the people there are pretty helpful. But like any group of people, you're going to run into situations where some people are just kind of negative, or, you know, like we do as human beings, we all speak from our own perspective. And your own personal perspective may not actually be very knowledgeable. Might not be a broad range of knowledge there, and you may not be doing the same sorts of things a lot of us are doing. So, but you just can't help yourself. So, when I got my van, it needed some stuff. Everything worked, it looked good, it was real clean, but in short order things started failing, and I was ignorant to this van. I hadn't had an all-wheel drive Astro van before, so I didn't really know what I was looking at. So I'm going to try to help you with what to look for and help you to understand what's going to make your van safe to drive fast. Now, I just came back from about 4 days on the road, and I was hauling ass, 80, 85 miles an hour, no problem. I hit 95 a couple times. Wasn't really trying to. I just kind of found myself at that speed, like, whoa, that's fast. So, I mean, if your motor's in good shape and your transmission's functioning properly and your rear end's all working, yeah, you can drive the van pretty fast. But you want to be safe doing it. You don't want your van jumping all over the place, shifting, you know, that sort of thing. If you turn the wheel a little bit and the van's moving like this, that's not safe. That weight of that van, that momentum could pull you off in another direction. Wheels can track off in a weird way, so you want to make sure everything up front is good to go. But as I discovered recently, your rear end is important too, as far as your suspension. So when you get underneath your van, you've got these two control arms that you have ball joints attached to, and you've got CV axles, and you want to go under there and look, because if you see, let's say you look at your axle, and the CV boot has grease on it. You want to get up in there with a hand, put some gloves on, and feel around. If you feel a crack in that boot and there's grease coming out of it, you need to replace that CV axle. If you look at your ball joints and you see grease coming out of the rubber fitting boot over it, well, you need new ball joints. You know, if you jack your van up and you move your wheel around and you see the idler arm jumping, you need new idler arms. Yeah. So if you are driving along, and you know, some people, for everybody it's a little bit different at speed, but I'm looking at my wheel, I can't tell if the wheel's out of cant, because I just had an alignment, but I might need another one, because I was screwing around with my torsion keys, which is another thing. But if you're at certain speeds and you'll get like a weird vibration or something, it could be a bunch of things. For me, it was a wheel hub assembly. You know, your bearing and everything is one assembly there, and it's pretty easy to do. You could do it. So, wheel hub assembly. So if you replace your wheel hub assemblies, if they need it, and you replace your upper and lower ball joints, and you replace your CV axles, and you replace your idler arms, control arm bushings. There's two parts where that is connected to the frame. Mine were shot. I drove across the country with practically no control arm bushings in place. Get out of the way, you bastard. And now that's all done. And the interesting thing was I had to do some of that myself because I just didn't have the money to pay somebody. And I was going to a shop in Culver City. They were pretty nice guys, but some of their diagnoses were incorrect, and I replaced things I didn't actually have to do. Always a bummer. And but when I have money, when I'm working, I'd rather pay somebody to do a lot of the stuff because I'm busy, I'm working. I recently found a better shop. I'm happy with his work, and I'm going there right now, and it's much closer. It's within a mile where I live, which is also always nice, because you can walk there, ride your bike, or whatever. But as I replaced these different parts, I would notice a difference in how the van handled. But it would also highlight the other things that weren't done yet, even though I might not have known what they were. So once I got the whole front end done, and you got to make sure you got an alignment on there too. That van was doing pretty well. But as you may know from watching some of my other videos, my stock leaf springs on this thing were garbage. In particular, the one on the driver's side. And I had airbags in it, so I was riding on the airbags mainly, and it was a rough ride when you hit bumps. I mean, it was like, teeth jarring. No fun. And it didn't handle great on the highway. And I had to put the airbags on. They were on when I got it. You know the story if you watch the other videos. But they were on because the guy towed with it, but I think also he had towed before he had the airbags, and that's probably what ruined the rear leaf springs. That's the only thing I can assume. But I recently put the S10 leaf springs on, and it transformed the way the van handles. So on this last 3-4 day ride, I was off-roading. In some places I was in a foot of snow. In a lot of areas I ended up going 4 low. I had a mixture of snow and mud in a lot of areas, and it was a little sketchy. I went to a couple spots where I probably shouldn't have gone, but the van that can worked. And it got me in and it got me out, and I'm very happy about that. And I did not air down. It would have been smarter to air down my tires, but I didn't have a compressor with me, at least not a good one, so I didn't want to take that chance. So I took the chance without airing down, and everything was fine. Everything worked out. On the way home, I was really being specific about paying attention to how it was handling at speed, because I'm flying in this thing. Like I said, average is 80, 85. And my mileage doesn't seem that bad at that speed either, with 30-inch tires. And this van is amazing, in particular now because I did the rear springs. It's all linked together. So, of course, I didn't mention shocks. Now, when I bought this, it had Rancho shocks on it. I'm not sure the number. I'll get that at some point, put it out there. But the shocks are still good. So, this thing handles, to me, like a new vehicle. So, how fast can you drive your Astro van? Well, I mean, if you go off a cliff, you can go pretty fucking fast. Some of you get to the point with that thing, I just want to drive it off a cliff, because it's so frustrating. But you have to know that you're going to have to pump money into this thing when you get it. Once you accept that, and you start doing it little by little, eventually you're going to get to a point where you're going to be very, very happy with it. Because I can tell you, and I'm driving, once you get on a big open road in the southwest and you're just flying, there's nobody else around, it's awesome. But the true test is when you're in the city. I live in Los Angeles. I know, I'm not super happy about it either. But the roads here, the way they do road work, and everybody's doing 85, 90 miles an hour. And the roads just, they shift, they change, and it's jam-packed traffic. And you have to have that confidence with your van where it's going to feel like it's on rails no matter what you're doing at speed. Otherwise, you shouldn't be doing it. And I have that confidence. I always did because I'm a pretty good driver. But now with the way the suspension is, with all new parts, good shocks, the rear leafs are dialed in, there's nothing funny about it. There's no play anywhere. This thing is just, it's amazing. So, yeah. And also I have a new transmission. I put the Jasper transmission in it, so it's really shifting well. I will say that when I was in Arizona, I was on my way to Williams. There's a big mountain you got to climb, and you lose some power there. That's going to happen with elevation and temperature. I'm usually at sea level with this thing, and it always screws with my head because I blew a transmission already in this thing, the original. So I always think, oh no, what's happening? You just got to remind yourself where you're at. Once you get back down from there, I was climbing mountains down in the desert. No problem at all. I mean, literally, you can do 90 miles an hour, at least I can, in my van, up a mountain with a load. So, it is the van that can, but to do things safely, you just want to make sure that you've replaced all these parts. And once you do that, you'll have the confidence to know you can go that fast. If you've replaced all those parts, your van isn't going as fast as you think, you got to check your transmission, make sure you got a good tune-up. The oil pressure gauge is pretty good on that thing. I'm at, I think, I forget what the gauge says, but I'm 2/3 of the way. When I turn that thing on, it jumps all the way beyond center, to 2/3 of the way there. So I've got a real good oil pressure in this van, so I've got a good motor, and I sure do run it hard. Anyhow, so hopefully I answered your question. How fast can you go? You can go as fast as the van will let you go. How fast can you go safely? That's what's important. Have a good day. Enjoy your Astro van. Be good to each other.